Day 28, and the strait is still shut. 20% of the world's oil supply cannot move. Over 150 ships sit anchored and waiting. Oil peaked at $126 a barrel. The most intense American air campaign since World War II has destroyed 140 Iranian naval vessels, eliminated 2/3 of Iran's military-industrial complex, and reduced missile production to zero. And the strait is still shut. Iran is still sitting on that choke point, bleeding the global economy $40 billion a week, betting that time is on their side. That bet is about to break, because right now there are aircraft sitting on runways in England and Diego Garcia, loaded, fueled, and waiting for one phone call. When those aircraft move on the Strait of Hormuz, everything Iran has been counting on collapses. Those aircraft are the B-1B Lancer. And once you understand what this bomber actually does, you will never look at this conflict the same way again. Most people have heard of the B-1B. Almost nobody understands what makes it dangerous. The B-1B Lancer, nicknamed the Bone from B-1, is a supersonic variable sweep wing, heavy strategic bomber. It was designed in the 1980s under the Reagan administration as a nuclear delivery system. The mission was simple and lethal: fly low, fly fast, penetrate Soviet air defenses, and survive long enough to deliver. The Cold War ended before it ever had to do that. What was left behind was one of the most capable conventional strike platforms ever built. Here are the numbers. Maximum speed, Mach 1.25, over 900 miles per hour at low altitude. Combat range, 5,840 miles without refueling. With aerial refueling, that number becomes effectively unlimited. It flies above 30,000 feet, powered by 4 General Electric F101 engines, producing 30,780 pounds of thrust each. The crew is 4: pilot, co-pilot, and 2 weapons systems officers managing targeting and electronic warfare. But one number changes everything. The B-1B carries 75,000 pounds of ordnance internally across 3 weapons bays. 75,000 pounds. That is the largest conventional payload of any aircraft in the United States Air Force inventory. Nothing else comes close. In a single mission, one B-1B can carry 84 500-pound bombs, or 24 2,000-pound bombs, or 24 JASSMER cruise missiles, twice the cruise missile capacity of a B-52. And here is what makes it uniquely dangerous in this specific fight. The B-1 is not a stealth aircraft, but its radar cross-section is roughly 1/50th that of the B-52. On radar, it looks like a fighter jet. A fighter jet carrying tens of thousands of pounds of weapons flying faster than sound. That is what was already used on the first night of this war. The B-1 was not held in reserve. It was in the opening wave. At 1:15 a.m. Bangor Eastern Time on February 28th, over 100 aircraft launched simultaneously in the largest coordinated strike package since the Gulf War. The B-1B was part of that first wave. Combined with Tomahawk cruise missiles fired from submarines and surface ships, the B-1s delivered hundreds of precision strikes in the opening hours. Iranian air defense installations, nuclear facilities, ballistic missile infrastructure, command and control nodes, all of it hit before Iran fully understood the scale of what was happening. The B-1's supersonic dash capability was decisive in those opening hours. It closed to its launch point faster than any subsonic bomber in the inventory, compressing the window Iranian radar operators had to track it, identify it, and vector interceptors before the weapons were already in the air. By the time Tehran understood what was inbound, the missiles were already on terminal approach. The campaign has not slowed since. Over 10,000 targets hit. 2/3 of Iran's military-industrial complex destroyed. Missile production reduced to zero. The top Iranian admiral, the man who personally ordered the Strait of Hormuz shut down, was killed in an overnight strike on fleet headquarters. More than 140 Iranian naval vessels have been confirmed damaged or destroyed. The B-1 has been central to every phase of that destruction. And yet the strait is still closed. That is not a failure of firepower. The United States has applied firepower at a scale this region has not seen in decades. It is a failure of match. Destroying a military is not the same thing as solving an asymmetric problem. And the problem inside that 6-mile corridor was never going to be solved from altitude alone. That is the problem the next phase is built to fix. The conventional assumption is that the Strait of Hormuz is a naval problem. Send ships, clear mines, establish sea lanes. That assumption is wrong. The strait is 21 nautical miles wide at its narrowest point. But that number is misleading. The actual shipping corridor, the lane where tankers must pass, is 6 nautical miles. 2 inbound, 2 outbound, 2 buffer. That is the entire playable space. And Iran has turned that 6-mile corridor into a layered kill zone using tools that precision airstrikes from altitude cannot reliably neutralize. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps operates more than 1,500 fast attack craft. Fiberglass and composite hulls, most under 15 tons, running at 50 to 70 knots. Shore-launched anti-ship missiles covering the approaches. Naval mines laid by small vessels under cover of darkness. Drone swarms launched from fortified island bases. These threats are not concentrated. They are dispersed, mobile, cheap, and they regenerate. You cannot bomb your way through a threat that costs $50,000 and can be replaced overnight. The cost math is brutal. An SM-6 interceptor costs $5.3 million. Fired at a $50,000 speedboat, that is a 100 to 1 cost ratio in Iran's favor. The Navy's arsenal was engineered for blue water warfare. Open ocean, high-value targets, expensive threats matched to expensive weapons. Hormuz is brown water. 6 miles wide, 1,500 composite speedboats, and a geography that turns every engagement into Iran's preferred fight. And Iran understands exactly what it is doing. This is not desperation. It is calculation. They do not need to win militarily. They need to not lose fast enough. Every week, the strait stays closed, costs the global economy billions. 59% of Americans already say this war was a mistake. Time is Iran's weapon, and they have been winning with it until now. The B-1B repositioning is not a rumor. It is happening right now in public, and Iran can see every move. 5 B-1B Lancers have arrived at Royal Air Force Fairford in the United Kingdom. 3 more have diverted to Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. Additional aircraft are positioned at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. These are not routine deployments. This is a deliberate forward staging operation, and the geography tells you exactly why it matters. Missions flying from Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota or Dyess Air Force Base in Texas were running up to 37 hours round trip. From Fairford and Diego Garcia, that timeline collapses. What that compression means in practice is not abstract. More bombing runs, more frequently, faster crew rotation, quicker weapon reload cycles. The tempo of the campaign does not just increase, it multiplies. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirmed it publicly. Strikes are about to surge dramatically. More squadrons, more defensive capabilities, more bomber pulses, more frequently. That surge is the repositioning we are watching happen in real time. The timing is not an accident. President Trump has set April 6th as the deadline before strikes on Iranian energy infrastructure begin. The B-1s moving into forward positions is not preparation for that deadline. It is the message itself. Iran's military planners can track these aircraft on open source flight data. The repositioning is visible by design. This is strategic signaling at the highest level. A message delivered not through diplomatic channels, but through flight paths. The clock is running. The aircraft are in position. And the question is no longer whether the B-1 will be used to break Iran's grip on the strait. The question is what happens when it is. Most analysts frame the Strait of Hormuz as a naval problem. They are wrong. And that misreading is exactly what Iran is counting on. The B-1B brings a specific set of capabilities to this fight that no other platform in the American inventory replicates. Its synthetic aperture radar tracks and targets moving vehicles at standoff range. Its sniper targeting pod identifies and engages individual small craft before they reach the corridor. And unlike an F-35 or an F/A-18, which carries a limited weapons load and must return to the carrier to rearm after each engagement, a single B-1 carries dramatically more, stays on station longer, and engages multiple target sets inside a single sortie. The math of persistence changes the entire equation. But the capability that closes the loop is the long-range anti-ship missile, the LRASM. The B-1B is the United States Air Force's sole carrier of this weapon. It is precision-guided and autonomous. It navigates around defenses, selects its own aim point, and strikes moving naval targets from hundreds of miles away. Every IRGC fast boat, every mine-laying vessel, every patrol craft operating in or near the strait becomes a target that can be engaged from entirely outside the threat envelope. Iran has no reliable defense against it, and the B-1 does not operate alone. A-10 Warthogs are already hunting fast boats inside the corridor at $10,000 per engagement. Apache gunships are working the close-in threats at 200 feet. The B-1 operates at standoff range, eliminating vessels before they ever reach the strait. The Navy preserves its SM-6 inventory for the Mach 3 threats that nothing else can stop. Iran's swarm doctrine was designed to drain American missile reserves. Combined arms breaks that calculation entirely. The math does not just shift, it flips. There is one target that ends this faster than anything else, and Iran knows exactly what it is. Kharg Island. Over 90% of Iran's oil exports pass through it. Every barrel Iran sells to fund this war, to pay its forces, to sustain its economy under sanctions, moves through Kharg's terminals and loading infrastructure. It is not just a military target. It is the economic engine that makes Iran's strategy possible. Destroy it, and Iran cannot sustain the fight. Not next month, not next week. The war ends on a timeline Iran cannot control. The Pentagon has been discussing it openly, not as a possibility but as a threshold. A B-1 strike package on Kharg's oil terminals, loading infrastructure, and storage facilities does not require carrier aircraft flying into defended airspace. It does not require a ground invasion. The B-1, armed with JASSMER cruise missiles carrying a range of over 500 miles, destroys Kharg's critical infrastructure from a position Iran cannot reach. 4 B-1s in a single coordinated formation deliver nearly 100 precision cruise missiles simultaneously. Iran has already started mining Kharg Island. They are preparing guerrilla defenses there. They know what is coming. Now connect the strategic logic. Iran's entire bet is on time. Hold the strait long enough, bleed the global economy long enough, and domestic opposition inside the United States forces a deal. The B-1 surge breaks that bet by compressing the timeline faster than Iran can replace what it loses. Mine layers get sunk. Island bases get hit. Yeah, shore batteries get destroyed. When those assets are gone, there's nothing left to hold the strait with. The targeting packages for Kharg, for Kharg Island, for every remaining piece of Iranian energy infrastructure are already built. Iran has 10 days to take the deal. After April 6th, the conversation ends. 27 days. The strait is still closed, the world's energy markets are still bleeding, and Iran still believes time is its most powerful weapon. It is wrong. The B-1B Lancer has already destroyed 2/3 of Iran's military. It is the only aircraft in the American arsenal carrying the anti-ship missile that can sink what remains of Iran's navy from 500 miles away. And it can put 24 precision cruise missiles into Kharg Island, the economic foundation of Iran's entire war effort, without ever entering Iranian airspace. This is not about firepower anymore. It is about timeline. The B-1 surge compresses the clock faster than Iran can adapt, faster than domestic opposition can build, faster than the negotiating table can save them. If this breakdown changed how you see this conflict, subscribe to Navy Pigeon. This is exactly the kind of equation we run every day. Iran has 10 days. The bone is loaded. The targets are built. And when it moves, the Strait of Hormuz will never look the same again.